that has a book.
Quite a title, actually.
Well, actually, I love hooks.
I know
And this has a hook. When will my life not suck?
Is that a question you're asking?
Yeah, I've said that in the car. Sometimes life just sucks, but it's an authentic hope for the disillusioned.
Yes.
So if you've ever had that disillusioned aura about your situation and something, you can't put your finger on it, something is wrong. We have the most amazing.
Yes. I'll bet you that a lot of people in Alabama would like to hear about this.
That's right.
With what they've had to go
Talk
through.
about the guy we've got. He
Dr.
came all the way
Ramon,
from Tennessee.
Dr. Ramon Presson is a clinically certified marriage and family therapist for over 20 years and the founder of Life Change Counseling and Marriage Center in Franklin, Tennessee.
I love that area.
Yes, he's the author of 11 books, and this is the latest one.
Hello, Nashville. He's actually physically here.
He is.
Yes.
We love that area. Thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
Good
Thanks
to
for the
have you.
invitation.
I think I'm going to, I just dawned on me today, I have another program coming up, and I just may put a call into you in Franklin, Tennessee.
All right.
It'll be live on the air.
All right.
I produce while I'm
Yeah,
doing
he does.
shows in my head.
Yeah. On the spot, producing. Drives everybody crazy.
Thank you
but
for
hey.
joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for the invitation.
The title, did you think about that a long time and say, you know what, this might offend somebody?
We knew we were taking a calculated risk. Knew that would be certainly attention-getting, but if I could, can I just tell you quickly where the title came from?
You can do anything you want.
This is your program.
Anything to a point.
Well, because when I heard the phrase, when I heard the story, it came to me, that's a great book title. But, I mean, you're familiar with the Nashville, Franklin area. Brentwood is sort of an affluent suburb of Nashville, shall we say.
I love going shopping in that little mall they have there, the grocery stores and all of that area. You see country stars.
That's right. That's right. They like living there because we're pretty good about leaving them alone.
Isn't that neat?
Yeah. We try to be discreet.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, we're staring, but we're discreet in our stalking.
We were sitting in Franklin. They were having some kind of a street gathering.
Yeah, a little party.
And Naomi Judd was sitting in the park bench right next to ours. And we look over.
She's just sitting
and
there
she's
with
just
her
sitting
husband.
there just watching. And we didn't say anything to her because I thought, leave the lady alone. Let her enjoy this.
Yeah.
It wasn't 5 minutes. She had a throng. And they were coming, and I go, she thought she was going to have a alone day.
Yeah.
So you're right.
You might as well have jumped in anyway.
Well, we just watched all of it without,
Right.
and she probably looked over at us and said, "They probably don't even know who I am." So tell us the rest of it.
Carla Worley, the wife of our worship leader there at the church, was telling me this on a Sunday morning that on a previous Sunday she was leading a women's Bible study. And in the midst of this proper Brentwood women's Bible study, Cindy says, this Bible study, this lesson about the Israelites crossing the Jordan into the Promised Land is all really interesting and everything, but I have a question. When's my life not going to suck?
Ooh.
And Carla said it's like suddenly someone vacuumed all the oxygen out of the room. Wow. And there's this awkward silence. And Carla, who's very wise, the group is looking to Carla like, do something, say something, rescue this awkwardness. And Carla decided to just sort of let that hang in the air and see what the group did with it.
That was good. That was good.
And then after a moment, another lady said, yeah, that's what I want to know. When's my life not going to suck?
And these are Brentwood people.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
With money
Everything
and
looks good
everything.
on the outside.
Yeah, exactly right.
And so now Carlos is thinking now the group's at a crossroads because there's an invitation on the table to be authentic and real and drop the mask. But the group's response to this could be, in essence, well, isn't that special? That's not who we are. That's not what we do. The little chicken croissants are going to be ready soon. Let's just get back to our regularly scheduled programming and finish this up. Knowing that if they did that, Carla's thinking if they do that, we'll never get transparent again. And these two ladies will never probably come back because they've just risked.
Yeah.
And so there's this, the groups at this intersection, what are they going to do? And again, Carla's just, in her wisdom, just letting it happen. And then not necessarily all of them in that vernacular, and not every woman, but several ladies then seize that opportunity to say, in essence, yeah, you probably have the impression, looking from the outside, that things are good and tight and structured and organized and productive and prosperous, but there's something else going on inside. I've got a rebellious teenager, or my husband's about to leave. And so they dropped the mask, and it was transforming for the group. Yeah. But when I heard that, I thought, I've heard that in essence from my clients as an assistant pastor for 20-some years. I've heard some variation of that. In a sense, I think Cindy, in her courageousness in that moment, was really acting as a spokesperson for many of us when she was asking that question.
Well, it's neat to have somebody that hears God. Mm-hmm. That's what she did, because just to not turn it into, oh, okay, next, she heard God and realized that this was a moment for the Holy Spirit to work in the hearts of people. I like to be around people that are listening. Now, your life has not always been the way. I mean, you look, what are you, 6 foot?
Right.
Okay. And about 190 pounds?
You're being very generous.
Okay. So, but I mean, you look very athletic. You wanted to be a race car driver.
I grew up in North Carolina, so you
yeah.
live in North
Definitely.
Carolina, you got to love NASCAR, you got to play basketball.
Absolutely. I like NASCAR. And, but you wanted to be an athletic whatever. What were you excelling in?
Well, I was a high school and college tennis player.
Okay.
But then when I was in college, I went 2 years to Wingate College near Charlotte, North Carolina, and knew I was going to transfer and finish up at Wake Forest. And I had a very successful freshman college tennis season, almost went undefeated. I knew, however, that my sophomore season would be my last team competitive collegiate tennis season, if you will, because I knew that realistically I didn't have a Division I caliber tennis game. So I'm looking forward to my sophomore season, going out strong. And about 5 days before the tennis season started, I broke my hand playing intramural basketball. I wasn't supposed to be playing intramural sports when you're on a team.
Many athletes have ruined their career by motorcycle, just enjoying something and their whole careers.
Just a pickup game.
Yeah.
And I thought, when the doctor said to me in the emergency room, it's broken. Immediately I knew that the season's over. I've played my last competitive, meaningful tennis match, and so in my mind, and I don't want to equate that with an Olympic athlete who breaks a leg before the opening ceremonies. But that was my dream.
Yeah, that was your world.
It was still my dream.
Sure.
I had been writing since the third grade. So I mean, it'd been sort of a sideline hobby, and I was taking a creative writing workshop or two.
Were you a good student?
I was a good student, not too bad. My two boys were a lot smarter than me. I married a class valedictorian, so I have no problem knowing where the brains came from.
Yeah, she was smart too, and that's the reason we're smart.
She married you, yeah.
That's right.
But I'm thinking I can't imagine something worse than this happening. My English professor, Mr. Thomas, I mentioned in the book, came to me and invited me to be the student director, student editor along with him, of the campus literary magazine. Come out once a year toward the end of the year. And from that moment on, both in working with him on that publication as well as him sort of coaching and mentoring me in my own writing, at that moment, tennis began to fade, and writing increasingly it became.
So what you thought might be a bad thing turned out to be a good thing.
Right. And I'm always quick to say, people have asked me in essence, do you think that God made you break your hand to make you a writer? And I say, God's more resourceful than that. There's a difference between God causing and creating pain, and creating a crisis, than Him being able to bring something restorative. Restorative, is that a real word?
Yeah.
Redemptive. Transforming out of that. I mean, so the seeds were planted in that crisis.
We have a half hour here, so I got to move into the area, another crisis. Someone broke your heart, okay? And again, you probably felt at that point, life sucks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How did you come through that? Because then you went into depression.
Right.
And you don't look like a guy that would, you just don't look like a guy that would be depressed. But there goes the looks again.
Right.
It's like the surroundings don't match what's happening.
Right. Remember that song years ago, "Tears of a Clown." There's Chonda Pierce, the Christian comedian.
Yeah, we had her sitting in that chair one time.
So you know her story. Someone who is hilarious and on the outside, and there was a great deal of darkness
she was crashing.
and pain on the inside.
Yeah.
I broke the engagement, and then I'm the one that fell apart. And I tried to get her to change her mind, and she.
And you even begged.
I went to see a counselor at her church, and honestly, the hope was that the counselor then would get her to come into the session, and sort of the counselor would be my accomplice, and she didn't cooperate with that agenda. And that counselor, Maureen DeLeon, really became my spiritual mom, and the engagement was never restored, and I just crashed, and I lost not just weight, but I lost complete confidence in myself.
You
and
just wanted to stay in
sense
bed.
of direction.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Because what matters? When I talk about authentic hope for the disillusioned, when you're disillusioned, there's that sense of why bother with anything? Because what matters, what's going to change, what's going to be good enough to care.
What do you do